What if I told you that the chief technology officers of the world's most powerful legacy tech companies, I mean, places like Instagram and Workday, are just, well, willingly resigning from their corporate boardrooms to take entry-level research jobs?
Yeah, it sounds like a joke, right?
Right. Or what if I told you that a single artificial intelligence company just swallowed a chunk of the world's venture capital that's basically the size of a small nation's GDP? If you are, feeling overwhelmed by the sheer velocity of the tech industry right now, today's deep dive is definitely for you. We are hitting pause.
And honestly, it is entirely understandable to feel that whiplash. The speed it's wild. But when you stop and actually map out the data points we are seeing today, a very clear, a very startling picture starts to emerge about where the global economy is heading.
Yeah, and that is exactly our mission today. We are looking at a highly concentrated stack of breaking updates from the Daily Tech Reader, and all of these are dated today, July 15th, 2026.
Fresh off the press.
Exactly. And our singular focus today is Anthropic. We are going to map out how they are just aggressively transitioning from an elite frontier research lab into an imminent trillion-dollar public behemoth.
A very fast transition, I might add.
Insanely fast. And crucially, we are going to explore the intense friction this hypergrowth is creating around AI safety and human talent.
Okay, let's unpack this, starting with the foundation of this massive shift, which is obviously the money.
Right. Because you really cannot understand Anthropic's current moves without first grasping the just unprecedented scale of capital they are absorbing right now. I mean, the numbers completely defy traditional business logic.
DeFi logic's putting it mildly. I was reading the reports, and they concern that Anthropic is actively scheduling investor meetings with executives for an October IPO. And this is being led by absolute heavyweights. We're talking Goldman Sachs, Morgan Stanley, JP Morgan.
The biggest players.
Yeah. But here's the specific number from the source material that made me do a complete double take. They confidentially filed their S-1 prospectus last month at a valuation of $965 billion.
Wow, yeah. That valuation is a total watershed moment. And for anyone listening who might not, spend their days reading financial filings, an S-1 isn't just standard corporate paperwork.
It's a huge deal, right?
It is. It is the comprehensive registration document a company files with the SEC before going public. So filing it means a company is basically opening its books to the world, bearing every risk, every revenue stream, and every internal metric to justify that near trillion-dollar valuation to public investors.
So there's no hiding anymore.
Exactly. Though the fact that they filed it confidentially is a pretty standard move to keep those cards close to their chest while the SEC reviews it. But the leaked valuation signals, they are absolutely trying to beat OpenAI to the public markets since OpenAI only filed in June.
Right. Right. And that $965 billion valuation isn't happening in a vacuum. Let's look at the venture capital data for just the first half of 2026. The Daily Tech Reader notes that U.S. venture capital hit about $412.7 billion in H1. And out of every single dollar deployed, AI took 86%.
Yeah. Let that sink in for a second.
It's crazy.
$355.9 billion went into artificial intelligence in just 6 months. And globally, just two companies, Anthropic and OpenAI, captured 43% of all startup funding worldwide.
Almost half the money on Earth.
Yeah, that's $217 billion between two entities. And Anthropic alone raised $95.6 billion in just the first half of the year.
I mean, I am genuinely trying to wrap my head around this.
Yeah.
If you are a founder, right, and you're building a climate tech startup or a new fintech app right now, you are essentially starving because this massive gravitational anomaly, this black hole, is literally tearing capital away from the rest of the global tech ecosystem.
It's a massive vacuum, yes.
But I have to push back here. Is this kind of capital concentration actually healthy for innovation?
Yeah.
Or is Anthropic just leveraging their size to create this insurmountable $95 billion moat before they even hit their IPO? Are they just locking everyone else out?
Well, what's fascinating here is that you have to stop looking at this through the lens of traditional software startup funding.
Yeah.
It fundamentally breaks those older models.
How so?
Because this isn't venture capital in the way we understood it even 5 years ago. The capital concentration you are seeing isn't necessarily a deliberate monopolistic moat designed to, stifle a couple of guys working in a garage. It is just the literal entry ticket to play the game at the frontier in 2026.
Because of the cost of compute.
Exactly. Building frontier AI requires compute clusters and energy resources on a scale that only a very few entities on Earth can physically afford to string together. The hardware and energy costs totally dictate this financial structure. So this impending October IPO isn't just a big tech liquidity event, it is the financial crystallization of a whole new global infrastructure.
Okay, so you have raised almost $100 billion in 6 months, and you are staring down a $1 trillion IPO. How do you even deploy that? You have to prove to the public markets that you can actually monetize this tech in the enterprise sector, which brings us to the launch of Ode with Anthropic.
Right. This is the deployment phase. It is the logical next step to prove real revenue generation.
And it's a $1.5 billion joint venture, backed by a total who's who of finance: Blackstone, Goldman Sachs, Sequoia, Hellman, and Friedman. They're building this on the fractional AI team they just acquired in May, which gives Ode 100 engineers working on a strict Claude first principle.
Yeah, 100 dedicated engineers.
And the stated goal is to embed these forward-deployed AI engineers inside mid-sized companies to build custom AI systems for them.
And you really have to notice the target demographic there. Mid-sized companies moving from AI experimentation to actual operational deployment.
Which makes sense, because selling an advanced frontier model to, like, a mid-sized logistics company right now feels a bit like selling someone a commercial jet engine.
Right. What do they do with it?
Exactly. Sure, it is incredibly powerful, but the customer has absolutely no idea how to attach it to their supply chain. With Ode, Anthropic is essentially sending 100 aerospace engineers to live in the customer's garage and build the actual plane around the engine for them.
That is a perfect way to look at it. Anthropic knows that their core internal team needs to stay relentlessly focused on the frontier, which means training the next generation of models. They simply cannot afford to divert their top researchers to deal with the bespoke IT integration issues of some mid-market company.
Wait, but if Anthropic outsources all this enterprise integration to a strike team, don't they lose touch with what the customers actually need the AI to do? I mean, isn't there a feedback loop missing there if the core team is totally insulated?
That is very sharp observation, actually. There is a real risk of a disconnect there. But that is exactly why Ode is structured as a massively funded, dedicated joint venture rather than just an internal customer service department.
So it's its own beast.
Exactly. Ode acts as the translation layer. They handle the messy, day-to-day, real-world deployment fiction, so the core lab can focus purely on advancing the model's reasoning capabilities.
Okay, but sending engineers out to build bespoke systems only solves half the problem. Like, if a massive hospital network wants to use Claude, those engineers still hit a huge legal brick wall, which is patient privacy. And that brings us to a seemingly dry but incredibly important update today. Anthropic just released a self-serve HIPAA configuration for Claude Enterprise and the Claude API.
This is massive. I know it sounds bureaucratic, but removing friction points like HIPAA compliance is the actual skeleton key to unlocking enterprise adoption.
Can you explain why it was such a bottleneck before?
Right.
Because the source notes that eligible admins can now just review a business associate agreement, grab the implementation guide, and enable HIPAA-ready settings in one single workflow. Like, why is that revolutionary?
Well, because historically getting AI compliant in healthcare required months of manual procurement coordination.
Just a lot of red tape.
So much red tape. We are talking about teams of lawyers reviewing data silos, auditing how the AI processes information, and ensuring the model isn't storing sensitive patient data to train itself later. Hospitals had to set up heavily monitored, totally isolated servers. But by introducing a self-serve API, an application programming interface Anthropic has essentially built a secure digital bridge.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, it allows a hospital software to send a request to Claude and get a synthesis back without ever exposing the raw patient data to Anthropic's overarching training models.
So they've automated the legal and technical compliance. They just basically threw open the vault doors to one of the most lucrative sectors in the global economy right before their IPO.
Exactly. It's all about clearing the runway for revenue.
But to build these enterprise deployment teams and simultaneously push the boundaries of frontier models, you need the smartest people on the planet. And this leads directly to what I think is the most bizarre and honestly fascinating part of today's deep dive: the talent migration happening at Anthropic. The Daily Tech Reader calls it an executive exodus.
The human element of this hypergrowth is totally unprecedented.
The reports note that Andrej Karpathy has joined Anthropic's pre-training team. Now, for those who don't know, Karpathy is basically AI royalty.
Oh, absolutely.
He is an OpenAI co-founder, the former director of Tesla's full self-driving, and he created that wildly popular neural networks, Zero to Hero course, and his new job. He is tasked with building systems that use Claude to accelerate Claude's own training.
which is a profound technological threshold. Pre-training is the foundational phase where an AI model ingests vast amounts of unstructured data to learn patterns and reasoning before it is fine-tuned for specific tasks.
So it's the raw brain power.
Exactly. Having an AI assist in its own pre-training means using current models to generate high-quality synthetic data, filter out noise, and optimize the learning algorithms for the next generation. It creates this incredible compounding loop of intelligence.
Okay, so you have Karpathy doing that. And then Tom Blomfield, the co-founder and former CEO of Monzo, just joined Anthropic's AI compute team. But here is the trend that really blew my mind. Over the last 18 months, the sitting chief technology officers of Workday, Instagram, Box, U.com, Super.com, and Adept AI have all left their executive boardroom roles to join Anthropic.
Yep.
And they aren't joining as executives. They are joining as individual contributor researchers.
They are willingly giving up the C-suite.
So what does this all mean? Like, why on earth are highly paid, powerful sitting CTOs of massive legacy tech companies taking what looks, on paper at least, to be a massive demotion?
Well, if we connect this to the bigger picture, you have to understand where power and leverage actually reside in the tech industry in July 2026. A CTO at a traditional tech company is primarily managing people, right? Vendor relations, quarterly product roadmaps. But the real power, the absolute frontier of human discovery right now, is in proximity to the model's pre-training.
Proximity to the core brain.
Precisely. We are in the middle of a technological gold rush that makes the early internet look totally quaint. These executives, they don't want to be the mayors of the boomtowns anymore. They want to be the ones deep in the mines actually swinging the pickaxes.
Oh, wow. That's a great way to put it.
If you are listening to this on your commute, think about what it would take for you to give up your executive title to go back to being a junior associate. That is the level of FOMO fear of missing out happening at Anthropic right now. An individual contributor role there offers more leverage to shape the future of human technology than a C-level title almost anywhere else.
Okay, so let's summarize where we are. Anthropic has absorbed half the world's venture capital. They have institutionalized their enterprise rollout with a $1.5 billion strike team. And they have literally vacuumed up the top engineering executives on Earth to work as line researchers. So, as a listener, you would naturally assume that with all this money and all these literal geniuses, their AI safety protocols are flawless, bulletproof, and totally sorted out right.
You would certainly hope so. But the reality in the source material is far more precarious.
This is the safety paradox. The Future of Life Institute just released their 2026 AI Safety Index. They evaluated risk management, transparency, and whether these labs are actually honoring their own stated safety commitments. And Anthropic got a C+ up.
Which, importantly, the report notes was the highest grade among the frontier labs.
Right. OpenAI and Google DeepMind got a C, Meta got a D+A, and xAI, DeepSeek, and Mistral effectively failed. So Anthropic is essentially the valedictorian of summer school.
Yeah, that's one way to frame it.
But the report emphasizes that a C+ is still a mediocre performance by the industry's own stated standards.
And we really need to clarify why a C+ here is so concerning. If a regular software product gets a C+ in quality assurance, maybe an app crashes and you lose a document. But these frontier models are currently being integrated into cybersecurity, healthcare, and autonomous agent systems.
So a failure is catastrophic.
Exactly. A failure here doesn't mean a crashed app. It means potential systemic vulnerabilities on a global scale.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Anthropic knows this is a problem, so they are currently hiring to fix it. The Daily Tech Reader highlights that they just posted 32 open positions for enforcement analysts. But these aren't your typical trust and safety moderators looking for spam. These roles are specifically for catastrophic harm prevention.
The stakes could not be higher.
Yeah. The job listings cover radiological and nuclear threats, chemical and explosive agents, financial crime, and cybersecurity exploitation. And the compensation is massive, mid to upper 200,000s. And the job description explicitly states they want domain experts, not primarily software engineers. They want people who can stress test the models by thinking exactly like bad actors trying to evade detection.
Right.
It's like a bank deciding that to build their new vault, they can't just hire architects and they need to hire the world's most dangerous jewel thieves and terrorists to design it.
That analogy hits the nail on the head. Software engineers are brilliant at optimizing systems and writing code, but they are not trained to understand the nuanced precursors to, say, a covert biological weapons program.
Right, that's a totally different skill set.
If you have an AI model that can ingest and synthesize the entirety of human scientific literature, you don't need a programmer to test its safety boundaries. You need a biosecurity expert who knows exactly what a malicious query looks like hidden inside a completely benign-sounding chemistry question. The fact that the top lab is scrambling to hire 32 of these specialists right now proves that they know the raw technology is outpacing their capacity to contain it.
Which means these safety concerns aren't just theoretical thought experiments anymore. They are active, real-world problems. And that takes us directly from the hiring of these safety analysts to the actual deployment of these models in critical infrastructure. This is where those safety protocols are being put to the ultimate test right now. Project Glasswing.
Yes. This is where the tension between profit and safety reaches its absolute peak.
According to the source, Project Glasswing currently has about 200 partner organizations spanning more than 15 countries, and they are using Anthropic's highly restricted Claude Mythos 5 model to scan critical infrastructure code bases for vulnerabilities.
Which sounds like a fantastic defensive application of AI until you look at the deployment timeline.
Right, the timeline is wild. The Daily Tech Reader states that access to Mythos 5 was just restored on July 1st for a set of U.S. organizations. Why? Because it was suspended on June 12th. It actually required government approval to be turned back on. And Anthropic has explicitly stated that Mythos-class capabilities will not reach general customers until robust safeguards are developed.
And no timeline for that.
Exactly. They won't even confirm a timeline for that general release.
Okay.
We are supposedly getting a 90-day progress report around the Black Hat USA conference in early August, but that's it. So help me square this circle. This model is so powerful and potentially dangerous that it was literally suspended in June. It requires government approval to operate, and they openly admit they don't have robust safeguards for general customers yet. But we have 200 organizations scanning critical infrastructure with it as we speak. Isn't that totally backwards?
This raises an important question, and it perfectly synthesizes the ultimate tension of everything we've discussed today. Why deploy it at all? Well, because a highly restricted, government-monitored defensive deployment is vastly different from open-ended general availability. But that delay in general availability for Mythos 5, that is the physical manifestation of the C+ safety grade. The raw reasoning capability of the model is advancing significantly faster than the safety architecture required to cage it.
So what does that mean for the enterprise market, like for Ode with Anthropic?
It means we are seeing the creation of a two-tiered system for AI. There is the public tier, the models that are safe enough and aligned enough for general availability in your local hospital or supply chain. And then there is the frontier tier, the Mythos class. Because the safeguards aren't there yet, the only way to deploy these frontier models safely is behind closed doors, exclusively with vetted partners under strict government supervision, specifically applied to defensive tasks.
It's like they've built a next-generation nuclear reactor, but they haven't finished the containment dome. So they're only letting highly trained government technicians use the raw power to reinforce the facility's own walls.
Exactly, and the profound tension is they are doing this while preparing to go public in October at a near $1 trillion valuation, driven by $95 billion in fresh venture capital that absolutely expects a massive return on investment. The pressure from Wall Street to release these frontier models out of the restricted tier and into the broader, vastly more profitable enterprise market is going to be immense.
It is a massive high-wire act. So let's pull all of this together for you, the listener. What have we actually mapped out today? We started with the sheer undeniable gravity of the October IPO and that $965 billion valuation, the capital requirement that is sucking up 43% of global startup funding. We saw how Anthropic is aggressively institutionalizing that advantage with Ode, sending aerospace-level engineers out to conquer the mid-market enterprise, and replacing the manual friction of HIPAA compliance with self-serve APIs to capture the healthcare sector.
And we also looked deeply into the human element, the incredible vacuum pulling sitting CTOs away from their corporate empires to become individual contributors, just to be close to the model's pre-training phase.
Right. And finally, we looked at the friction, the paradox of the C+ safety grade, the desperate hiring of domain experts to prevent catastrophic harm, and the incredibly high-stakes reality of Project Glasswing, where government-approved models are scanning critical infrastructure while the company scrambles to build the safeguards needed for a public release.
It is a fascinating, almost overwhelming snapshot of a company in hypergrowth.
And this is why you need to care. Whether you are managing an investment portfolio, building a small business, or frankly, just trying to navigate modern life, the trajectory of this single company is currently rewriting the operating system of the global economy. They're building the infrastructure of tomorrow, today, and the choices they make about safety versus speed will impact all of us.
And that leaves me with one final lingering thought based on what we've unpacked. We talked about Andre Karpathy joining the pre-training team explicitly tasked with using Claude to accelerate Claude's own training through synthetic data and evaluation loops.
Right, the AI training the AI.
Yeah. And we saw the brightest human CTOs stepping down from legacy companies just to assist in that exact process. If the AI is now primarily responsible for training the next generation of AI, and the smartest humans on Earth are willingly reducing their roles to simply facilitating that loop, are we currently witnessing the very last generation of AI development that will be primarily driven by humans?
Man, that is a heavy thought to end on. The blur of the industry is definitely real. But hopefully, after today's deep dive, you can see the tracks and the mechanisms a little more clearly. Keep your eyes on that October horizon, and we will be right here to help you unpack whatever comes next.